In one turbulent day, Pedro Castillo went from President of Peru to prisoner at the country's elite police base. Accused of attempting a coup on December the 7th, the ex-teacher from rural Peru has since cycled through 3 lawyers. Now the 4th, Ronald Atencio, is the closest we've got to knowing Castillo's thoughts, apart from the few notes that Castillo has written from prison. They've insisted that he's still the president, but Atencio, who visited Castillo the day before this interview, told Al Jazeera there's been a change in his client's position. What has he said in terms of his imprisonment? Does he really expect now to return to the presidency of the country? Does he believe that that's possible? And what has he said about the protests that have broken out after he left the presidency?
He knows there's a serious crisis. 21 dead, hundreds injured. He's worried and he's hurt. If he has to abandon the legitimate position the people have given him to stop that, he will.
He is prepared to leave his aspirations to return to the presidency if that helps to end the violence.
Yes, he is willing to make any sacrifice for the country.
That could have implications for the protests which began after Castillo was removed from power. Following this address to the nation, just before he was about to face an impeachment vote in Congress. The president announced that he was going to dissolve Congress and that he was going to govern in a state of exception, no? A government of exception. That's a coup, no?
For a coup to be real and concrete, it can't just be a message to the nation. There has to be a level of organization, coordination. And we see that, for example, that no military staff have come out to say they were involved. You didn't see any tanks or patrols on the streets.
But doesn't that just mean that it was an unsuccessful coup, that no one supported him?
No, we can't talk about a coup as a coup is recognized in the world.
How do you explain what he said then? Was it just a mistake?
I think it was definitely a political error, without any doubt. Why? Because how do you send out a message of that enormity without evaluating the consequences?
Castillo's now being held in prison for the next 18 months before his trial because prosecutors say there's a flight risk. That's based on his actions on the 7th of December. The president of Mexico said that he'd asked for asylum in Mexico, and it's been reported that he was on his way to the Mexican embassy. He was trying to flee, no, he was trying to leave the country.
He never called the president and said, "I want asylum." He did go to the embassy, so I think what he wanted was to look for protection in that moment.
But Castillo didn't make it to the embassy. Atencio say that he's now appealing against his prison time based on irregularities in the process to remove him from office. But the issues at stake in Peru have now gone beyond one man. People want new elections, some want a changed constitution, while from his prison cell, their former president has another fight on his hands. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Lima.